There we go. Still having issues with this mute button on Zoom. Good morning, everyone. I'm Detroit City Councilman James Tate, representing District 1, and thank you all for being here this morning. This has been, looking at February, we're at the end of February 2021 already. It just has flown by. Here we are about to jump into March. But of all the things to complain about, being here in our right mind and able body is really not a thing to complain about today, especially with all, like I said, we've gone through. Not going to belabor any points. We got a full jam-packed agenda today. We've got updates on Proposal N, the NEZ, the Neighborhood Enterprise Zone changes, Detroit Alley Cleanup Program, funding for the speed humps, budget process. I mean, a lot. We've got our guests here today. We've got the brand new director of the Office of Disability Affairs. But before we start off with all of that great information, I want to make sure that we have proper introduction for our first two guests. Our first two guests are joining us today. Both are state representatives of the city of Detroit. We know Stephanie Young. She's been around District 1 and around the area, around the city for quite some time. She's in her first term as a state representative in Michigan House 8th District, serving Northwest Detroit, including Bethune, Old Redford, Brightmoor, Castle Rouge, College Park, Prairie St. Mary's, and Grandmont Rosedale communities. After graduating Cass Technical High School and Michigan State University's James Madison College, Rep. Young's first professional job was as a legislative aide to a former state representative. She then went on to sharpen her governmental skills, working for a number of Detroit mayoral administrations. Most recently, Representative Young worked as the first executive director of the city of Detroit's Community Education Commission, where she worked diligently to help improve the educational outcomes for Detroit students by eliminating barriers to success and improving access to transportation and quality after-school programs and information for parents. We want to welcome you, State Representative Stephanie Young. We want to give a big round of applause there. And also joining us, another brand new State Representative Mary Cavanaugh. She is serving in her first term representing the 10th House District, which encompasses Redford Township and a portion of Northwest Detroit, including District 1. Representative Cavanaugh brings a natural flair for community activism, relationship building, and invoking positive change to her work at the Capitol. With over 19 years of civic engagement, political and community organizing, and social activism, Representative Cavanaugh has built a strong relationship with so many in the 10th District and beyond. Another congratulations is in order for Rep. Cavanaugh. In December of 2021, she became a proud graduate of Wayne State University with a degree in physical anthropology, where her studies focused on the evolutionary analysis of human behavior from social, economic, political approaches. D1, if we can please again welcome and thank for joining us, Representative Stephanie Young and Representative Mary Cavanaugh. Thank you both for joining us today. I know that was very long-winded. You guys are probably used to that by now. You have to. That's the thing that happens when you get elected. People roll out the red carpet. So we're rolling out the red carpet for you today. Again, thank you for joining us, both of you. First of all, how has it been? I mean, look, this is a very contentious time in this country, especially in the political realm. I know your first week you were fraught with threats, not you personally, but just threats in the state capitol, all of these different challenges that we're facing around the country. We've seen many of them right here in the state of Michigan first. So either one of you can go first. How's it been in your first, what's that now, 30 days, 40 days so far?
Right, a month and a half.
Yeah.
Almost 2 months, right, Mary? Representative Cavanaugh. Yes. I'll just quickly say that, it's been challenging. We talk about wanting to serve our community. We talk about wanting to serve our great state. And yet to go to work, we're having conversations about bulletproof vests, and we're having to do emergency evacuation drills should somebody storm the state capitol. that's how our year began. That's how our service began. And it should not have had to be this way, particularly over election results in a democracy. So it's been challenging. What about you, Representative Kavanaugh?
Yeah, I'd have to just agree with Rep. Young, is that we came in kind of doe-eyed, really ready to get to work. And then it just kind of hit us in the face of really what happened last year in the state capitol. And just that it was a real conversation that we had as Dems and as new legislators, is getting those jackets and really talking to our local police officers and making sure that they had either a direct route to us, or that we can kind of get those sort of protective measures into the Capitol with us. And we can't really have anything at our desks. So me and Rep. Young and other legislators are trying to figure out how we're going to try to lug it all the way back and forth. So it was just a little bit surreal. And especially, I always heard everybody being scared, but as soon as the Capitol shut down for a week and we were asked not to come even to the Hob for work, it really kind of hit us with the reality of what was going on, even as new legislators, because I wasn't there with everything that happened last year. So I know other state representatives, our colleagues, they're really trying to tell us how scared it was and how it still shakes them today. And it wasn't until we kind of had to experience it ourselves that it's really more than just coming in and making laws and really standing up for our communities. It's really protecting ourselves, where you necessarily never needed to do that as a legislator.
Yeah.
So just now, under 2 months in, have things changed at all? The advisories that you were receiving, maybe even the commentary from your colleagues on the other side of the aisle, which we know can be a little bit challenging as well. Has things changed, settled down just a bit, or are they still crazy and increasing?
No, things have settled down. I think we're in a bit of the new normal, simply because the COVID-19, the pandemic, has caused us to be in a new normal. So what makes things better than they were last year when people were able to open carry is we were able to ban open carry in the Capitol. Now, what we still haven't been able to accomplish is carrying concealed weapons. The one reason that has died down some is because of the pandemic, and that people aren't able to come freely like you once used to be, to come and roam the halls of the Capitol. And so now you have to have an invitation. You have to be approved to be able to be there. And so that's causing us to have a little bit more safety, but the Capitol is going to open up again. It's the people's house. We want it open, but at the same time, we need for it to be safe. So we continue to fight for the banning of concealed weapons as well, for the overall safety, not just of the legislators, but for everyone who works there and everyone who would think to visit. We always have school groups that are coming, and they're so excited, and we haven't been able to do that now for almost a year. And so when they do return, we want them to return knowing that they're safe.
But so
Yeah.
I'm sorry, last question I'm going to ask about the past, and then we're going to talk about the future.
Yeah.
Representative Kavanaugh, I know your dad worked in state legislature for a number of years. Do you all compare notes? Do you look to him for guidance as a freshman in this realm?
Yeah, well, I feel like everyone has been telling me, oh, I have a little ace in my pocket, but it's really hard, if anybody worked with him or was a state rep with him, to really get him to sit down. So I've been trying to get like little tidbits here and there. He really told me where the bathroom was when I was a freshman, just so I didn't have to really figure out my way around the Capitol and legislation and stuff. But when it comes to the nitty gritty and in the weeds, me and Rep. Young were the ones that were talking on how to introduce a bill or which room to go to. So it's just like the little nitty and gritty that we're kind of just figuring out ourselves. But I really do like the relationships my dad built through his time here at the state legislature with both lobbyists and community organizers, that I can kind of jump in and they know that I have the same values of working families and really standing up for our communities in every kind of aspect, that I'm going to bring that with me to the state legislature. But I also want to add, I'm going to do a shout out to our Democratic chair. I really do feel like the Dems, and me being the vice chair, have really tried to work together with the Sergeant of Arms and State Capitol Police to really make us feel safe and know who to go to when we either have a complaint or if we're worrying for our lives, or even to walk us to the Capitol. So I do hold my breath for when we kind of open the doors to everybody to come back in. I hope we do get that legislation passed as far as concealed. But as far as now, I really have trust in the security of both the state capitol and the police. So I really like that as well.
Awesome. So I know State Rep, one of the things that we all know is that as an elected official, you get pulled in many different directions. So I know you have a time schedule that you have to, another time commitment. So again, we just thank you, especially both of you, but we thank you for being here as you pop out of our meeting and go to another one. So I'm going to ask you a question again about, now and moving forward. Can you just lay out to the folks? I know we did it during the campaign, but now you're sitting in the seat. You got to, for the folks who may not, whoever they are, may not know Stephanie Young and Representative Young and what you've done and what you plan on doing, can you just lay out kind of what your priorities are as you are now sworn in and in the seat and going through all the challenges that we all have to face as legislators?
Thank you for the opportunity to share that, because I did want to give everybody just a quick update. So one of the things that you can expect when you become a new legislator is to get your standing committee assignments. And so I would tell people it was really exciting talking about the committees that I wanted, before I got assigned the committees, because that's when you're so hopeful and you're like, oh, wow, maybe I'm going to get this. And if I get this, I'm going to do that. And so I just like to share with you all that currently I'm on 2 committees. I'm on Financial Services and I'm on the House Oversight Committee. And both of those are really powerful committees in that in Financial Services, we're dealing with things like the payday loans and how that's affecting communities like ours, where people are taking advantage of those who are financially challenged and sometimes desperate and need help. And anytime that it's legal for somebody to charge 132%, up to 700% on a payday loan, that's criminal to me. That's criminal to me. And so just looking out for residents as it relates in that field of financial services. And then of course we have the House Oversight Committee. And so many times for people who don't even think about what's going on at the state level, House Oversight Committee was put on the map by none other than Rudy Giuliani last year. How many people remember Mr. Giuliani, the former president's legal person here, and giving testimony during House Oversight? And so that's what we do. We provide oversight for the state departments, for legislation that's being proposed, for anything, pretty much anything that the chair of that committee wants to discuss. That's what we're going to discuss. We've already talked about youth sports and brought in testimony, all negative testimony against the governor, the mean governor who won't let the kids play in a pandemic. That was the testimony. And you got to be really careful, because you can understand and empathize with young people who wanting to play. But when I talked to a coach and he told me that one student had lost a scholarship because they hadn't been able to play, I said, now's not the time to spend a bunch of energy complaining about a pandemic preventing you from playing, but let's go after the university who would deny a young person their scholarship during a pandemic. See, there's a way to handle these things, and not just, there's not just one way. I don't talk about skinning cats, I talk about feeding them. There's multiple ways to feed a cat, right? And so get on that committee. We have an opportunity to just look at so many different issues and then to find solutions. And so I'm doing that. I just want to share real quickly, I'm also a part of Dem Leadership. I'm Democratic Caucus Assistant Whip. I'm the Detroit Caucus Treasurer, the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus Chaplain. I'm a part of the Firearms Safety and Gun Violence Prevention Caucus. I was so appreciative to have been able to listen in on your town hall the other day, Councilmember Tate. It was amazing, and I'm looking forward to working with you on that issue as well. Also a member of the Progressive Women's Caucus, the Adoption and Foster Care Task Force, the Child Welfare Improvement Task Force, and believe it or not, I think I'm forgetting something, but that's enough. So you talk about, I'm busy. I'm so busy. I've already had an opportunity to introduce my first bill. It has to do with health and safety, as well as being financially responsible when spending state dollars. When we got to work in the House office building, we found that the state had just invested, I don't know, a couple of $1 million just upgrading the bathrooms and turning everything into touchless faucets and touchless paper towel dispensers and all of those things. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's neat because now it's going to reduce germ spread, right? All those types of things. But then I got to thinking, can we just codify that? And whenever there's a new state building built, we just start there so that we're not in 10 years from now going back and replacing stuff because it's like, oh yeah, we probably should have did that. No, we don't have money like that in the state of Michigan to just give away. And so just a simple piece of legislation that will save us money in the long run. Working on things like lead testing and I have labor bills that we're working on. It's really important to do those things in collaboration with your colleagues, right? So we're working on some bills, Representative Kavanaugh and Representative Abraham Ayash, we've sat down and we're working on a package of bills right now. So been busy, you know, we're in a budget season. And so that's interesting. The whole budget process it's out of this world for during the House for our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to leave $500 million in Washington. Made no sense to me, but we're still working on that. I know that there was some action on the Senate side that I actually got to read up on. I've been so busy. So just doing all those things, council member, trying to catch my breath.
Yeah, just doing a little bit of something, that is impressive, and it is definitely in the character that we know of you for over the years. And we know, Rep. Kavanaugh, we know you've been a fighter and worked tirelessly as well. Rep. Young talked about committee assignments. What committees are you on? What assignments? And again, talk to us a little bit about what you're looking to implement while you're in the state legislature.
Absolutely. Always tough to follow Rep. Young and her long list of accomplishments, but I feel like we're working on so much together, even with the Detroit caucus and especially with the freshmen, clean water, clean air, and making people responsible. But I'm actually excited to announce that I got 2 committees that I actually were vying for. So that's tax policy and local government and municipal financing. So I'm really excited about those based on kind of the work that I've been doing over the past 5 years before a state legislator. And that's really keeping people in their homes and looking at the holistic value of why people aren't staying in their homes, either getting evicted or residents or tenants. And it's really trying to address those sort of problems. And especially during COVID, I really think that that is going to be the detrimental thing that we need to look at. And especially after all of these executive orders are going to be up, it's kind of going to be a balloon payment for a lot of these people that we need to be ready to catch them and be ready to be there for them for support instead of just say, oh, well, you had the time and you should be where you need to be. I feel like that is completely unacceptable. But it's also, I don't have as much to report as far as the tax policy and government, just because we haven't yet to meet. We've met just our little intros. So we kind of got to meet the other side as far as the Republicans are going to be on it. I got to meet a lot of my Dem colleagues that are going to be on it. So I'm really getting close with Rep. Kupa. She's really kind of fighting with me for the revenue sharing as far as local government and really pushing that through and making sure that regardless of a Republican majority, we get some of these accomplished. And so since we haven't met, doesn't mean I haven't been too busy. I know House floor, we can kind of do the moving and shaking regardless if we're on the committee. So my first bill, I was actually really excited to introduce a veteran unemployment relief. And it's really to incentivize really small businesses. So that's 1 to 50 employees to hire unemployed veterans. And in such a time, our seniors are really paying the price and really need as much relief as possible towards this COVID and especially just being there for them in everything that they need, because we've been seeing just that they need support before even the effects of COVID. So I'm even excited that last week I was able to sign on and introduce a package part of the Hardworking Michigan Recovery Plan. And that's just a UIA expansion. And part of it is really to include the seasonal employees that haven't been thought about as far as on unemployment and when they aren't working to get kind of that resources and support that everyone is really entitled to need. But even within that package is really what I've been fighting for during the campaign and even before while I was out boots running, because I really experienced this myself as far as minimum wage, not being able to take that and afford even the bare minimum of food and rent. So I'm very excited to even introduce an expansion of the weekly maximum of unemployment from also 20 weeks to 26, and a 4.1 to 6.1 increase. So we really are going to try to push this. Our hands are a bit tied with the Republican majority, as Rep. Young knows. But it really, I'm starting to learn that we are in what we call safe districts. And so I'm really excited about that, in a way, just because it makes Republicans a little bit more open to our conversations. And I'm going to take that with any grain of salt that I can. Open up, if you have grandkids, let's talk about it, because then that's something that we can put one foot forward and really start talking about what is affecting us and affecting them all at the same time, so we can really push for things that we need. I'm also excited to be working and co-sponsoring Delete the Box, asking for past crimes in job applications. I've even seen it while I was working construction with a nonprofit, that was the one thing that really kept people from jobs, both in construction and really keeping their homes once they kind of had to have to check that box and really expose their own personal history without the needed background check that will already be established, where they don't have to check that box. I'm excited to even be working with Representative Coleman with the right to work appeal, as well as Felicia Brayback. Me and her kind of fought this out on who is going to introduce it, because mental health is a really big thing as far as, to me, and anything that we do as far as the legislator. We really need to keep that just a scope and lens of mental health. And so I'm excited to work with her of a minimum number of school counselors employed by a district. And so we really can kind of get the resources we need to the students, especially after COVID. We're really experiencing heights of anxiety and really understanding that people are experiencing things that they haven't before. And I really also, I'm excited to have open conversations with Republicans that I'm hearing haven't been experiencing these sort of hardships that our districts and our communities have been experiencing for so long. So even as what I said, a safe district, they can finally have a conversation about they lost their job, they can't afford food, they can't afford, or they don't know how to get their children back to school, or teach their mentally disabled daughter how to get the resources she needs. And so I really feel like this is going to open up doors for these new conversations. So I'm excited to be working with a lot of state reps on a lot of those issues, and even Representative Carter on utility, the ban of utility shutoffs during a declared emergency. And so that really we need to be there for the residents and there for people who can't afford, especially being able to heat their homes during the winter, being able to, do I afford food, or do I afford putting it towards my heat and electricity? And I don't want anybody to have to make that decision. But I am trying to kind of have a little niche of up here in Lansing of people staying in their homes. And so that's really going to be helping me as far as the committee, me working with treasurers, local governments, finding out what they need and pushing that up here in Lansing. My three main priorities will be education, healthcare, and economy. And that's the recovery and growth. I know my district covers a lot of 7 and 8 Mile and all of Redford Township, which is looking to do a downtown. So it's just revitalizing unemployment support, healthcare, and that's from affordability, awareness, access to education. So we need to be educated in how we're going to the doctors and not coming home with a $500 bill. I feel that is too often among seniors, among young people, and it's just this gap of understanding. And when I even look, they're like, oh, well, you didn't ask them to put in the right code. And I just even feel like that's not something I need to be doing while I go to my health doctor. So I feel like that's a gap that needs to be addressed, and especially education. And so I'm working with a lot of Detroit reps and especially out county about just restorative practices, conflict resolution, and focus on early education, equity funding, and reform. And everyone knows that that's not just going to be one bill that we all get to sign, and it's just going to be a fix to our public schools, but we really need to start taking steps forward and not just trying to throw money at it and putting Band-Aids on what isn't working. So that's a little bit of what I'm doing. I'm pretty excited. Next week seems like a busy week in my committee, so we can really start getting these policies and this legislation pushed.
So yeah, it sounds like you're working on a little bit of stuff as well. Just a little bit. We want to again honor your time, because I know Rep. Young, you've got to get out of here. Rep. Kavanaugh, you may have to as well very quickly. So we want to go to those who may have questions for you. before you get out of here. So for those who are joining us today, if you have a question for the reps, you can, if you're on the telephone, you can participate and raise your hand by dialing *9. If you're on a Windows computer, you can do so by typing in Alt plus the letter Y. And if you're on an Apple's computer, it's Option plus. Again, if you're on a telephone, it's Apple's computer, it's Option Y. If you're on a Windows computer, it's Alt. Any questions out here? Anyone want to raise their hand for a question? We'll go back and forth from Facebook as well as Zoom. Don't know if we have any questions. I don't see any raised hands just yet. I'll ask the question as folks are gearing up. Do the freshmen get together and meet? You know, I don't know if we're talking about freshmen Republicans. So folks who are down here and not sure how the inner workings of Lansing go. Do the freshmen of the various parties kind of get together and work on policy, get to know each other? And then the other question is there a you need to wait your place kind of attitude in Lansing for freshmen coming in? Just wait your place. I've been here, wait your place. Even though there's term limits, there's a top of the food chain in many situations and, you know, everywhere else. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So I'll touch on the freshmen if you want to touch on the
I'm like, wait a minute.
more lucrative question.
Well, this is the way I look at that. So early on, we were having a number of orientations. Because of COVID, we haven't been able to meet in person. And so what our colleagues that have come before us have said, wow, this is like really a disadvantage for us, because that's when many of the relationships that they have now with members on the other side of the aisle were actually forged. They were forged during all of these orientation sessions. And so we have had to do extra to get to know our colleagues on the other side. I know that I had an opportunity to come to a training. We did one training, bipartisan training in public. And I got there early, and I got there early enough just to be there when there were 4 other members from the other side. And, you know, what's interesting is in the midst of the pandemic, and it's just, you know, we're all different, but everybody on the Dem side, we all wear masks. Many of us wear double masks. And then you have on the other side of the aisle, I guess we decided like about 85% don't wear masks. And so it's the same thing in committee. If you ever watch committee on the public television, you'll see that same type of situation happening all over Lansing. And so anyway, I had an opportunity to get to this meeting. I got there early and there were 4 members from the other side. And I just kind of went over and introduced myself and started talking. And that's when I had a chance to see how it is important to be around your colleagues, because since then, there's one member in particular that I have built a really strong relationship with. Representative John DeMoose from Harbor Spring, from up north. And he is an amazing individual. You know, we absolutely do not agree on all things policy, but what we do agree on, we agree on. And that's what we are charged to do. We're charged to get up there and find those places where we can have agreement and then work together on legislation. That's been our biggest thing on the task force. We talk about things that I am really, really committed to. You know, I ran on healthy families. And so that was important for me to be on both the child welfare task force as well as the adoption and foster care task force. It is just absolutely heartbreaking to see how our children are taken care of and with the state at the helm. We've been in 14 years of a federal consent decree because of how we've treated our children in the state of Michigan. And many people don't know that. Many people don't know that they get $150 clothing allowance. And I mean, what is that? I said for a month. They were like, well, kind of annually. It's things like that that we've got to fix. There's that African proverb where that African question they will always ask, how are the children? And that was the litmus test for the society. If the children were well, then the society was doing well. And quite honestly, we cannot say that in the state of Michigan because our children are not well. They're not well in school. They're not well in terms of their health care. They're not well when they have to come into the system. They're not well based on juvenile justice injustices. They're not well. And so we have work to do there. And so working with my colleagues, there's Mary Whiteford. She is over the adoption task force. She's committed to our children. So just forging those types of relationships, that's what's going to help us move the needle and get things done.
Well, actually, that's good to know because I have an upcoming meeting with Representative Whiteford where we're going to be talking about mental health because she is the Health and Human Services Appropriation Chair. So I'm excited about that. And I'll lean on you with some little tidbits because that's kind of what we have to do here in Lansing is my dad, he did say one wealth of advice before COVID happened was his number one thing that he remembers as ever forging relationship is that Michigan State bipartisan orientation where he got to shake hands, where there wasn't a label on your shirt or nowadays on your face that kind of shows if you're a Democrat or a Republican. And so you can kind of forge those relationships without already knowing, hey, this is a Democrat, this is a Republican. And so we have kind of like a step back from that, but it is really being proactive. It's really being knowing that you want to develop those relationships. I actually had my intern do a little bio on each and every representative. So I can kind of review, I can kind of know, okay, they like spaghetti, so I'll start there. And what they keep telling us is you can't over communicate. So I might seem awkward to them. I might seem a little too talkative, but then that's a little quirk if they come to me. Is that right? She's willing to talk and she likes spaghetti. So maybe let's talk about food disparities. So just kind of opening doors like that. And I find it a little bit hard. I think it might be a little that I'm younger, because you kind of have to develop those relationships on the House floor. But it's also, you kind of have to be proactive. There's a very strong line that separates Republican and Democrat on the House floor. And it feels that you're kind of going on a wave when you go on the other side, and you're just somewhere else. And so everybody's looking at you. Everyone's like saying, what are you doing here? So I really like those representatives and colleagues that have just opened the door, like Rep. Brixey and Representative Carter, and even Rep. Yancey, who introduced a bill with Bellino. They kind of allowed me and took me and made those introductions because it really isn't trying to reinvent the wheel. It's really helping each other to build these relationships and working together. And I'm also going to tout what I graduated with, my anthropology degree. I'm really trying to take that in the back of my head every time I go and develop these relationships. It's learning about the deep history of people, why they become who they are and why they believe in what they believe in, and understanding that you're not there to change that. You're really there to understand it and then go from there and try to meet in the middle and figure out how you can help everybody. So I'm trying to make sure that we come with that approach, diversity, equity, inclusion. And I'm working with Rep. Young as far as really understanding just how and why they do the things that they do in order for us to really push for and show them why we do what we do, that we're not Martians, we're not out here liberals, like just saying, we're not going to work with you. It's like, we're all out for the same thing, is we want to help our constituents and we want to help people that are hurting. And so we need to work together to get that accomplished.
And that is extremely important. I know Representative Young, you've got to get out of here. And we apologize. We've stretched this out because we want to make sure we get as much as we can from the both of you. We do have some questions, but we want to give you an opportunity to say any parting words, Rep. Young, before you get out of here. Or do you have time for questions? I know you're on the time.
They're actually looking for me.
So, get out of here because we don't want you. We don't want that to be a problem. First thing.
Well, first of all, I just got to always give a shout out to D1. I got to give a shout out to House District 8. Everything started in D1, and you set the bar high, a council member. So I appreciate you. The one thing that I do want to share as I walk out is, I ran on a platform of Together We Win, and that together remains. And so I'm forming my kitchen cabinet. That will include people who want to participate in the process. When we're preparing for a committee, when I know ahead of time, because sometimes we're oversight, they don't tell us, so we can't prepare properly. But when I have an opportunity to reach out and pull the team together, I want to be able to do that. We did a quick kitchen cabinet with Greater Sandhill the other day. It was amazing conversation around residency. And everybody went in. And when that comes up, Representative Cynthia A. Johnson, the good Representative Cynthia A. Johnson, has a residency bill that she's about to introduce. And so I was taking a poll. What are you all thinking about that? Because I didn't go up there to represent Stephanie Young. I went up there to represent the residents of House District 8. And the best way I know how to do that is to stay engaged. I didn't go to disappear. Council member, you're here, boots on the ground all the time. But when they talk about state legislators, if they say, we vote for y'all and we'll never see y'all again until it's time to run. And I am committed to not have that be said of me. Let's say, let it not be said of me. And so that's it. That's where we're going to form this kitchen cabinet. I know that you usually will have slides, the information on how to contact your guest. So I'm assuming that's on there somewhere. They'll be able to get that. So please, D1, please, House District 8, reach out to me and let your voice be known, because I'm going to need you. I need you when it's time to stand for those tough subjects that affect just us sometime and not necessarily everybody across the state. I got to stand. I got to be able to say, look who's with me. And that's the residents here. So God bless you, my brother. Happy Black History Month as we close out Black History Month. It's an amazing time in our nation. We have our first African-American vice president. So much to celebrate. And again, thank you. Thank you so much for the
Rep Young, before you get off, I know you just had an amazing community conversation. So I just wanted to know if you wanted to, because I know we have monthly. So if you want to shout out your next.
Look at that. See, that's why we have to have each other's back. So one thing I want you guys to do is be certain to visit our website, visit our Facebook. So we try to do 2 community conversations that allows people who are able to come on in the morning, and then for people who need to come in the evening. And this month's topic, we did heart health and health in general, as well as we have Black History Month trivia. And always we're here to hear about the concerns, the questions, the issues that residents would bring for us. And it was amazing. We had a doctor from Henry Ford Health Systems. He was hardcore. He was taking no prisoners. He said, look, there's no amount of drinking that's good for you. Stop drinking completely. No alcohol, period. I was like, I'm not going to have
nothing but water.
Right. He said, just drink water. Then what does Representative Kavanaugh, then he said, tobacco. There's no such thing as good tobacco. Done with it. Cut it out right now. Nothing. I mean, this guy was hardcore, but I really appreciate him, because many doctors try to dance around and say, well, if you just do this and if you just cut back, he was like, time out for that. We've been doing that with you all and you're still not cooperating. So I need you to know that if you want to be here longer, you got to take care of yourself. And so the link to that conversation is on our Facebook page, on the State Rep Stephanie Young Facebook page. So I encourage you all to check that out as well.
All right.
All right, I'll take a breath. And I tell you, Miss, because Representative Kavanaugh, she talk fast. I got to keep up.
Yeah.
That's that youth. I'm a little bit older than Representative Kavanaugh, about probably double digits.
Well, that's why I'm glad they have the little, what we're saying at the bottom. So in case anybody misses it.
All right then, my friends. God bless everybody. I love you all. I can't wait to come back and see you and just spend a little more time.
Thank you so much. We very much appreciate you. Wish you all the best today. Wish you all the best forever. And we're here to support you in however we can.
Amen, brother. God bless y'all. Take care.
Thank you. And Rep Kavanaugh, we got about 2 questions. We kind of went a little longer in this segment, but it was necessary because you all had some great information. You got time for maybe about 2 questions?
Yep, I have about 2 more minutes. So shoot them.
Okay. So this will be the lightning round. All right. So who do we have first on Zoom? The first raised hand. Who do we have?
Good morning. This is Edwina. The question is in the chat, and this comes from Colleen Terrell. So she asks, so many citizens in our communities do not understand how city and state government works. What can we do to educate them?
I'm actually excited about this just because I have been running as a youth and even trying to get a lot of my people that I went to school with and even college grads with me, and they don't know the difference. They're like, oh, so you're a congresswoman. Oh, so you're a senator. And after even I won, there's a couple of people that would call me congresswoman. And so I'm trying to roll out some educational videos that really just try to the point, it's all about education. And I really feel like handing out these booklets that we're given every month just doesn't cut it. And so everyone's kind of online, and I really feel like it's just starting new innovative ways of communicating. And right now they have American government, and even me, I didn't learn about government through American government. I learned it through my family, just because American government made it super confusing, and people don't know if they're a township or even a city, or even if they are a township, who controls what, or city, how many councilmen, how many and what exactly they do. So I'm actually trying to start that in my term of little educational videos, 2 to 3 a month, of just trying to educate of what happens up in Lansing, what happens in Detroit, and the differentiation between people and their positions and what they actually do for the community. Because I really do feel like a barrier to that keeps people from voting, regardless of age, is that they aren't educated in what actually affects them in their daily lives.
All right. Last question that we have, and I know we have some other folks who have questions, but again, Rep. Kavanaugh has a schedule she has to keep, and we're thankful that you were able to give us a few more minutes to allow us to have that dialogue with you. Edwin, who do we have next or through Zoom?
Our next speaker or questionnaire is Ralph Leach.
Mr. Ralph Leach, thank you for joining us. Do you have a question for Representative Kavanaugh? Mr. Leach? Can you unmute? Unmute.
Okay.
There you
I like what was going on today. I like the information and being able to see the new representatives and what's going on there in Lansing. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And I really look forward to working with Councilman Tate. And I also have Councilman McAllister in House District 10. So really just working together. And that's why I love being a supportive to my colleagues like State Rep Young and Helena, is we're neighbors and we have the same problems and we really need to be working together to get them accomplished. So I really feel like it's working together. I do see a question in the chat regarding COVID-19 vaccines in the TCF Center and extending them to Brightmoor. I know that they, just really quick before I hop off, yep, they are actually offering free rides as well. I believe it's every Saturday where you can actually get a free ride to TCF Center, but they're also doing out county, out of Detroit, where local residents can kind of volunteer to help a local Detroiter get to the TCF Center. But I also know that they will be rolling out mobile vaccination centers. I'm not sure when that is, but I have heard that that is coming. So they will be actually on site to give those vaccine. It is the Good Neighbor program. And I've actually heard a lot of both residents in Redford and other residents outside of Detroit wanting to volunteer for this program. So I'm going to try to work with local church leaders and community organizers to try to get something together with people that are willing to drive and people that don't have a ride. So we'll see if we can get that together and how fast we can get that rolling out, because I know the Good Neighbor program just came out. People are looking to get vaccines and we're going to get more as the time comes. I did, if it's okay, Councilman Tate, that I could just do a little small push of my community conversation before I hop off. Okay, great.
About to wrap up now, so the floor is yours again. We thank you.
Perfect. I'm actually working with a lot of the Detroit caucus members for an unemployment town hall. And that's going to be this March, the 26th. And that's going to be from 3 to 4:30. We're going to have someone straight from UIA. They're going to actually give some Q&As, and we're going to have an update of their system and what's in the future to come. So anybody that's been experiencing problems, your neighbor, your sister, your son, please direct them to this UIA town hall. It is March 26th. 3 to 4:30. You can sign up or find the information via my Facebook, which I just put in the chat. And also I do have a community conversation. It is every third Friday of the month. The next one will be March 19th. And along with Rep Young, I've been giving it webinar version. So I usually have guests. Last month I had someone from Detroit and also someone from the Treasury, kind of like giving info about some sort of tax exemptions and ability to pay your property taxes and resources that you might need. So really check that out. The video is still on my Facebook if you need resources for that. But we usually have a guest as far as the webinar version, and we're going to start a Kick It with Kavanaugh. So that's going to be a later afternoon version. It's going to be more of a one-on-one wrap up and kind of update about the week and any personal questions anybody might have. So again, that's going to be March 19th. And we're going to have a UIA town hall and that's going to be March 26th. And March is reading month. So I will be reading to churches in the district. So, and I will also be putting tips and other things and other fun things on my Facebook. If anybody wants to follow along with that, learn where your rep's going to be, or even try to give your student a little good night reading. I'll have those on my Facebook. So I appreciate the time. District 1 has always been near and dear to my heart, and House District 10, I'm doing exactly what Stephanie Young is doing. I might take a little hint from her doing the kitchen cabinet. I feel like that's an amazing idea, but right now I am rolling out a small business roundtable, youth advisory council, and during the community conversation is when I can hear from the community. But I really agree that it's all about listening. It's not what I think the district needs up in Lansing. It's about listening to your needs, and it's always ever rolling and ever changing, depending on the day and depending on the pandemic. So I feel like it's always having a listening ear to what's going on and what's really direly important to our community and fighting that in Lansing. So, oh, and I believe while we're both hopping off, if anybody can join us, it is Black Women in Healthcare on the front lines. It's a celebration that the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus is giving, and it starts at 11. There's going to be a Dr. Calhoun on it as a guest speaker, and it should be via Zoom. So if you want to catch that, you can catch that on Facebook. Again, it's the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus, and we're going to do just kind of an award for Black women in healthcare. So I appreciate your guys' time.
All right. Thank you so much for allowing us to kick it with Kavanaugh today.
Love it.
So make sure you give us the information so we can shoot it out to our networks as well. Thank you so much. We wish you the best, and know that you have a supporter in us as well through all of your challenges that you're going to go through, and I'm sure successes that we're going to also be able to champion as well.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right. Take care now. Thank you. All right. There we go. We have got we're going to make sure you have the information for the two House reps following the end of this meeting. All the contact will be there in case, because we did have a number of people I see who had additional questions, but we went a little bit long in that segment, but you'll have an opportunity to reach out directly to the state representatives. All right, so now we're on to our second segment. As I told you, it is got a jam-packed agenda today. So last year was a very, very, very challenging year. We know that. 2020, we started out with all this promise, and then the pandemic hit, and then life just went kind of different. Let me just put it that way. One thing that went extremely well in 2020 is that City Council, in its very first session of 2020, introduced a resolution to support the creation of the Office of Disability Affairs in the city of Detroit, and it was unanimously approved by all of my colleagues. It was presented by President Brenda Jones, as well as Member Leland. I always want to give them a shout out for doing that great work. Took us a while, with COVID, when it hits, we weren't able to staff up like we wanted to, and it just caught us completely off guard. Well, here we are now in January 21, we have our very first director of the Office of Disability Affairs joining us today, Mr. Christopher Samp. We want to thank you for joining us. Mr. Samp has been working all around the country, DC, Illinois, you name it, he's been out there, Washington, but he's right here in Detroit, making sure that we are more focused intently on how to address the concerns of the numbers of members of our community who have disabilities. So we want to thank you, Mr. Christopher Samp, for joining us today. We appreciate it. You probably see that we have interpreters, and that was, again, a result of Mr. Samp making us more aware of what we don't know. And that's the thing that is so important, creating this avenue for dialogue. So Mr. Samp, thank you for joining, Director Samp, thank you for joining us today. Yeah.
Thank you, Council Member Tate. It's an honor to be part of your meeting today. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I can show to your meeting. I don't know if, yeah, okay, good. So when the resolution was passed, thanks to the council members and the community that got together to develop this office. So the mission of the office is to increase independent opportunity, community participation, safety, and wellness of people with disability in the city of Detroit, and to make sure there's inclusion, representation, and equity for people with disability as it related to the city employment programs and services. So we'll move on to the next slide. So when we did a community survey a few months ago, I've noticed 5 common themes that the disability community wants to see happen. So we have, the first one is to improve city services to disabled residents and visitors, including raising awareness on disability issues and educating city employees. Second, provide ADA training to city staff for hiring and working with employees with disability. And third, increase employment of people with disability in the city. And fourth, increase accessible housing. And fifth, there are safety, mobility, and other community concerns. Like, for example, how do we improve the public transportation efficiency time, or the sidewalk condition, or providing accessible parking spaces. So next slide, please. So I have here is my contact information. It's disability@detroitmi.gov. And my website is www.detroitmi.gov/disability. So if we could remove the PowerPoint presentation, thank you. So I'm honored to be selected for this position to help Detroit become the national leader of accessibility, but I understand it will take some time and work. So it requires community and participation and collaboration. So I'm excited that the next few months, as I meet with many different community advocacy organizations, department directors, city council, and many different stakeholders to see how we can work together and share our vision of what that means to make Detroit an accessible city. What does it mean, accessible housing? What does it mean, increasing employment? So we'll have that opportunity. Also, we have the city council has a disability task force every month that just started recently. And so you can be part of that meeting every month to share your vision and concern. You can also email me. I'm happy to set up a meeting with you and to learn more and how we can work together. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm going to turn it back to Councilmember Tate. So thank you for the opportunity to share what we're doing for the Office of Disability Affairs.
Thank you so much. And so we've know you just got here January of 2021, just last month. So we know you probably haven't had an opportunity to create an agenda of all the things that you want to do. And you just mentioned that one of your priorities is getting out and talking to folks to help you create that agenda. So that's what we're going to talk, that's the now and the future. So for those who are certainly not familiar with you, give us a little glimpse into your past. Talk to us a little bit about who you are, how you've gotten to this point, what led you to where we are now, having you as the director, the brand new first ever director of the Office of Disability Affairs. Talk to us a little bit about your past.
Thank you. My journey has been without some challenges and accomplishments. So I grew up here in Michigan. I'm a Michigan native. I was born deaf. My family, we have 3 other members that are deaf, my grandparents and my aunt. They go to Michigan School for the Deaf, but I happen to mainstream the only deaf in my school district, and I navigate the system without interpreter, no takers. And then that's when I realized I need to learn more about my deaf identity. So I left the state to go to Rochester Institute of Technology. And there I learned a lot about my civil rights as a deaf person, about my deaf identity, culture, values, and then I pursued my degree in public policy. But before that, I was pursuing a degree in civil engineering. Why? Because I saw a lot of the harms of cookie cutters here in Michigan. And I said, I want to make a difference. I want to come back and start designing different homes. But then I found that public policy is much better because I can have the opportunity to bring the stakeholders together and talk about policy, talk about how can we improve our community. So after I graduated with my bachelor and master's degree, I had a job working in the United States Senate with two senators. So I was there for 7 years. I learned about the legislative process. At the same time, I was involved with the National Association of the Deaf and Deaf in Government, which is a nonprofit organization that supports deaf and hard of hearing employees in government. We provide training, conferences to employers and employees how to make a workplace inclusive. And so after 7 years, I was really curious about the philanthropy. So I moved to Seattle for 3 years. I worked for a nonprofit organization in higher education. But not only that, I have many, many years of volunteer experience fundraising. So I learned about that. So living in DC and the East Coast, and especially being close to New York City, Boston, all of those cities, and living in the West Coast, Seattle. So there's a lot of different public transportation, different way of providing accessibility to the disability community. So I learned a lot. And then the pandemic happened, and I said to myself, I really need to come back home. I'm homesick a little bit because both coasts don't have enough snow. And like 1 day or 2 days of snow, the whole city shut down. And I'm like, we can handle it. We're in Michigan, we know what we do. But then I was like, I need more snow than just 2 days. So when the pandemic happened, I said, I need to move back. So I'm happy to be back to Detroit to contribute my knowledge and experience and to help the disability community connect with the city government, improve accessibility for all. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're so glad that you did decide to come back home because you're certainly needed here and your expertise is valued. I just want to ask a question, and it may seem a certain kind of way, and walk me through it. I think these are some of the conversations that we have to have as community. There's a lot of culture clashing that's going on. Some people were born in a different era, and we're looking at now reevaluating how we operated, things that we thought about, words that we used in the past. They're not applicable now. They're not acceptable right now. I was watching a program just last night with my wife, and when I was in my teens, it was hilarious. And I watched it last night as a 46-year-old grown man, and I was appalled at some of the things that were said and things that I laughed at back then. Mr. Sapp, just talk to us about, if you will, the importance of having these real difficult conversations, especially when you start talking about terms that are being used. A lot of times people don't necessarily know what to say, how to, in a way, classify, if I can say that, groups of individuals. We know that certain words are forbidden, but then you start hearing words like handicap. Can we say handicap or not? Disability, disabled. Is that okay or not? Talk to us a little bit about the importance of having that dialogue. If someone is afraid to ask, don't get angry. What should they do if they're not angry about all these changes that are going on? And I was raised this way. That's not a problem. Why should people care about things that happened in the past? Talk to us a little bit about the importance of dialogue and exchanging information and ideologies.
Yeah, thank you. With the short amount of time, the best way I could describe is that there are two different models, the medical model and the social model. In the medical model, it's where the doctor, the nurse, they see a baby that's born, it's that, oh, it's healthy, or the baby is born with some medical condition, and so, oh, there's something wrong with your baby, we need to fix them. Well, like for my situation, I'm deaf, so when I'm born, there's a negative connotation to being a deaf person because we can't hear. So they say, okay, fine, I'm gonna try to fix you with a hearing aid or with a cochlear implant. But then there's a social model where a deaf person grew up with identity, I didn't have the language, American Sign Language, and have a community that they belong to, where they understand each other. They say, oh, we have a lot of challenges with sound. So we have the world that we live in is audio centric, and people rely on sound to get around. But for the deaf community, we have language. And so we follow the social model to say we're not broken. We don't need to be fixed. We have a language. We have technology that will help us, and we are important member of society. So those are two different models that we see every day. As you noted, there's a cultural difference. And to find out what word to say, that's another part of our community. There is disability, people first language and pride language. So what it means is that when you put people first, it's like I'm working with employees with disability or people with disability, you recognize them as a people. They're an important part of our community. But also there is pride language saying the disability first. So I'm deaf, I'm a deaf person, or I'm a disabled person. That means we're proud about our identity. We're not ashamed to hide it. We know more about ourselves, and we are proud of who we are. So those are two different languages that we use interchangeably. And I know it can be a little confusing to those who are not who work closely with us or are not part of our community everyday life. But yeah, we definitely need to avoid using outdated language, like for example, handicap, because back in the old days, people with disability, they did not have a same opportunity as the people without disabilities. Like for example, they don't have a job or they don't have a home, so they have to beg for money or beg for help. So they use a hat to beg for money. That's why it's called handicap. So now we evolve over time. We have better laws, we have better technology, we have employment services that help people with disability get jobs, get the training. So we don't like that word anymore because it's really negative. So yeah, part of the process for everyone is that we're learning together, and that most importantly is to pay attention to the words that we use in our community. How you can do that is be involved with many different advocacy organizations, watch TV shows that are created by the disability community, see what language they use, what conversation they have. I know right now a lot of media, TV shows and films are coming out with a lot of disability representation. So it's really important to support that kind of TV show or business with disability leaders. So yeah, I'm wondering if that answers your question. I know it's a very complex subject to go in detail, and I hope that was helpful.
No, that was extremely helpful. I'm getting some messages from folks saying, look, I didn't know. I knew that it was a bad term, but I didn't necessarily know in terms of handicap, but I didn't know why. So you're already educating in your first, 15 minutes being here. So thank you again. We're going to make sure we go to comments because we've got quite a few questions for you if you got time for us. Yeah, let's go with our first question on Zoom, Edwina. I keep looking at Yelena's name. Let's go to the first question on Zoom, please.
Okay, this question is from Cheryl, who actually fought for representation and the Office of Disabilities. And so one of the things that she wanted to know is that during her fight, she fought for wheelchair ramp access, specifically when it came to accessible housing. Is it possible for the city to have a building code that mandates all new housing construction is universal in design?
Thank you for your question, Cheryl. So part of my office, my goal is to work with the city departments that manage planning and housing implementation and see what the procedure and policy they have right now. But also part of is the developers themselves too. Because right now the law said in order to be ADA compliant, you need to have these things. But when they build it, I'm not talking about the city themselves, but in general, like when the developers say, oh, my building is ADA compliant, like for example, an apartment with 200 rooms, they can say it's ADA compliant with only one room that's accessible. And yeah, we're following the law, but at the same time, that's not accessible housing. So what I would do is I would work with the city and work with the stakeholders and say, how can we improve that policy on a city level? Is there a percentage that we can require the developer to include more accessible housing? So yeah, I absolutely agree that we should be talking about universal design, and that's really important. We need to educate the community what universal design looks like and promote developers to use that as much as possible. And I know that they're concerned about cost, but universal design has a benefit. So if we use universal design, everyone benefits from it. Like for example, sidewalk, you have a little ramp that goes up. It does not only benefit people with disability in a wheelchair, it benefits a parent that use stroller, it benefits senior citizens that use a crutch. So having universal design in mind helps the city improve. So yes, so part of my role is to go to different meetings and see how we can include and make sure I educate them on what it means by universal design and making sure that we have a policy that help improve accessibility.
All right. Ms. King, who do we have next?
Next question is from Ms. Deborah Bradley. She retired from 30 years for working for the state in the Department of Rehabilitation Services for Wayne County. She would like to know how you plan to work with this agency that works with people or persons with disabilities.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you for your question. I am already connected with the rehabilitation services. So that we are working together because I know my office, we want to provide training and resources to the city employees and for the residents with disabilities. So I'm working with many different agencies, with many different organizations. So we collaborate together with providing training and opportunity and also employment. So I know MRS is a great resources, and I know there's many nonprofit organizations that provide employment service for people with disability. So my office collaborating with each one. But if you are an organization that wants to be part of this process, let me know. You can email me, and I'll make sure that we include you in our future planning and project. So thank you for that question.
All right. Ms. King, we have another caller or another, I'm like we're in committee right now. Do we have another hand raised?
No, Councilman Tate, that's it from the Zoom.
Any questions at all from Facebook? Team?
Not at this time. No questions regarding disability.
All right.
Councilman Tate, we just had someone raise their hand.
Let's switch them over if we can. And this will be our last question. Mr. Sam, thank you again. I mean, you've educated us upon measure right now. I mean, I'm getting texts from folks saying, wow, I didn't know this information. I'm definitely going to be in touch. So you definitely enlightened us today. So we can unmute our caller. Berg Lawson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I have a question for Christopher Samps, please. Christopher Samp. I have a nephew that visits me often and he's autistic. What can I do in order to get the speed limit reduced on my street?
Thank you. That's a good question. I have to check in with the Department of Transportation and the city ordinance to see how we can, if there's a way that we can change. I do know that if you have a deaf child in the area, the city can put a sign that warns people that there's a deaf child and drive slowly. But yeah, I have to look into about the speed limit. So if you could email me and I can follow up with you with an answer.
All right, thank you so very kindly. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much. Ms. King, I know we do have one final hand that just came up, and then we're going to wrap this segment up and get into the next one. Who do we have? I think it's a good friend of ours.
Yes, Mr. Doug Dillard.
Doug Dillard, thank you for joining us today. I have a question for Mr. Sam. Can we unmute Mr. Dillard? Let's see.
I forgot to mute myself. Sorry about that.
No problem. Good to
Okay.
see you.
All right, good to see you guys. Hey, one of the things, like I said, as a builder, I have been building for handicap for quite a while. We do our AD compliance, but recognizing that everyone at some time in their life will be handicapped, through illnesses or injuries, that we need to make more awareness in our building that all buildings need to be somewhat AD compliant, because you can't turn a wheelchair around in a hallway or in a bathroom and those kind of things. I have worked with Wounded Warriors, and there are other groups around the city of Detroit that are working with handicapped people. But the other one that I wanted to mention quickly is that like I have a grandson who's Down syndrome. And those kind of handicaps are the ones that really are not getting a lot of attention. And I was wondering, what kind of handicap services do you have for children like with Down syndrome?
Thank you, Dillard. The services we mean, right now the Office of Disability Affairs focus on accessibility on a policy level, but there are local nonprofit organizations that support people with disability like Down syndrome and intellectual and developmental disability. So I can refer to that organization that, like, if you're looking for employment services or caretaker, these nonprofit organizations help with that services. But as the Office of Disability Affairs, we make sure that the policy is effective and make sure that we make the city more accessible, and the city services and programs are accessible to everyone. But we're asking more specific question. I would need to do a little bit more research, and if you could email me, I'll make sure I can give you the answer that you're looking for. But I really appreciate that you brought up about housing, how we design it. When we say ADA compliant, and then a person with a wheelchair that use it to navigate the hallway, it's not really accessible, because the ADA was created 30 years ago, and a lot of the building code need to be updated. And we have like wheelchairs that are different kinds of technology available. We have advancement too. So we're behind in creating new laws to catch up with technology today. Like, for example, with caption, the ADA was made when we had television, but we didn't have internet. And then now the internet showed up. A lot of people are posting video content on Facebook and social media, and they're saying, oh, caption doesn't apply to my video content. But now we add a new law that said we need to include caption. So those are just an example of what we need to do as a community. Reach out to the city government, state, and federal to make sure that we update the law to improve accessibility. But I really thank you for mentioning that, Dillard.
You're welcome.
Thanks again for joining us, Doug. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Ms. Sam, we again, we're gonna wrap up, we thank you for giving us some additional time on your schedule for today. Any last words you want to provide the audience? I know we're going to make sure, again, we have your contact information available for those who had questions but didn't have an opportunity to ask them. We apologize for that, but we do, again, want to respect everyone's time. Any final words that you want to offer?
Thank you, Councilmember Tate, for the opportunity to talk about, to share the debate to the community. And our email is disability@detroitmi.gov. So I welcome everyone to contact me, and we can work together to improve accessibility in the city of Detroit. So I look forward to working with community advocacy organization, individual, the council, the employees, everyone. So I'm excited that we have this office. Thanks to you and to the community for pushing that to make this happen. So I'm honored to be leading this effort. So thank you for the time today.
Thank you. And we'll definitely make sure we stay in contact with you, because what we don't know, we don't know. And many times we need others to help guide us. And you are the one that we're looking to help us, certainly in the area of our Office of Disability Affairs. So thank you again for joining us, Christopher Samp. We wish you all the best. We support you, and we will continue to work in the future. Take care now. All right. So our next segment we have here is a new segment. It's going to take place every once in a while in D1. We're looking to find some members of the community who we know had very special to us, very special members, and had something to say. You know, we have been away from each other for about a year now with this COVID pandemic. We've found ways to unite, come together, but there's some folks who got a few things they want to get off the chest, expose, and let the community know about. And we think that it has some value. So every once in a while, we're going to run segments with members of the community, just kind of letting the community know how they feel, telling us all about themselves. So I want to give you an opportunity to meet, for those of you who don't know this gentleman. He's a great guy, known him for a number of years. And for those who do know him, you'll be able to attest to everything I just said. I want to introduce, for those who don't know, Mr. Coach Allen Tellis. Now, Coach Tellis has lived in the city of Detroit his entire life and has lived in D1 since 1981. He spent the bulk of his years, his career, working as a coach, basketball coach at Chadsey High School, while also teaching in other schools as well. He's coached track, swimming, cross country at Pershing High School. But I know this as a husband. One of the most important jobs that he has is being a great husband to his wife, Gloria, for 40 years. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our next segment called Tell Us, Coach Tellis. Yelena?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I worked out this morning, had a little breakfast, and that's very important that I get a little workout before I do anything. First, I get on the bike. I get on my bike. Right now, I go about 20 minutes, sometimes 10, depends on how my body feels. Get off and walk back and forth in the basement. That's about what, 10 yards. Then I stretch. My legs get down and go up and down, up, and then I go down, up, go down, and then I just stretch my legs. And then on the banisters, or as the banisters come down, I place my hand on one side of the banisters, and then I do my push-ups on that. But I don't do it every day. I do it every other day, or whenever the body feels like I need to do it. They shouldn't be afraid, because what they're doing is trying to protect you. I don't know why people are afraid. You got some people afraid they can get shots for for the flu. Now, so I don't know why they should be afraid. And once you catch the flu, which I had it, it make you crawl on the floor to the bathroom. You don't want the flu, see? So they should be taking the vaccine for the flu also. So if they aren't taking the vaccine, they should do it right away. That way everybody can be healthy and go back to normal situations. So I don't know why they should be afraid. Well, yeah, I have everything. If you have everything, why shouldn't you be happy? But some people have, you know what, is a good question though. Some people have everything and they aren't happy. I'm a people person. And when I see people, I say, hi, how you doing? I don't know half the people I talk to, kids and everybody. I don't know them. But when I see them, I say, how you doing? See, that makes me happy and it makes them happy. But they better find a way of making themselves happy. They have to make themselves happy. I can't make them happy. You can't make them happy. The preacher can't make them happy. And they need to probably talk to God sometime, on their knees and pray sometime. That might help them, because I pray every night. And sometime in the morning when I see that sun come up, I feel good. I feel good and say, oh, thank you, Jesus. Every time I feel good, I just say to God, thank you, Jesus.
So that is Coach Tellis, and we wanted to just share a couple of words from him. He's 92 years young. You would never know it. We remember back when we were pre-pandemic, Coach Tellis would bounce around one side of the room to the next, and it was just great to see him again. And we wanted to make sure we share some words that he wanted to share with the community as well. All right, so now we're at the point where we are in our hot topics. We've got a number of things we want to advise the community on. If we can bring up our PowerPoint so we can go through them really quickly. Yelena? And we get into it. I know our first is going to be on Proposal N. For those who have been paying attention, there is a lot of conversation about Proposal N. Yelena, do you have the screen share up yet? A lot of challenges, a lot of conversation, with Proposal N, and some challenges as well. Proposal N this week, City Council was presented with 23 contracts for the demolition. There were a number of challenges that we saw in these contracts, some of the contractors, still had a backlog of a number of properties that they had not had an opportunity to address. We also had at least one developer that was identified to have dumped, or their company dumped illegal dirt or dirt illegally at a location. That is very problematic. So as a result of the information that we were provided, 12 of the contracts were approved by City Council and 11 were denied. Now, the next steps as we move forward, the approved contractors will have an ability to begin to start the demolition and securing the properties, and the administration is working to address those contracts that failed. The Neighborhood Advisory Improvement Plan, the Neighborhood Improvement Plan Advisory Board is currently being selected. And we have a gentleman from D1 who we've nominated. That's Tommy Obioha. It's only 3 members. Now, here's the way that it works. The Neighborhood Improvement Plan Advisory Board has 7 members, 3 appointed by the mayor. There we go. 3 appointed by the mayor, 3 appointed by City Council, and 1 joint appointment. So we're doing our best to ensure that we have our D1 representative on that advisory board. And if you look at the bottom of the screen there, the Neighborhood Improvement Plan Advisory Board, they are to review and monitor the goals of the final resolution that we created for Proposal N, review the quarterly reports from the Vacant House Management Department, and provide recommendations to the administration and City Council on how to make sure that this program works properly. So we'll make sure to keep you up to date on where things are with a proposal in, but this is the latest information. Our next slide, the NEZ. We had a forum early this month, about 2 weeks ago, regarding the changes to the NEZ. There are a number of locations within District 1 that has the Neighborhood Enterprise Zone designation, which means essentially a tax break for residents on their properties where they reside. And on February 19th, that was the deadline to make sure that we have the proposed changes into City Council. We're going to be deliberating. The maps were referred to the Budget and Audit Finance Committee on March 2nd. The first public hearing on these changes will take place on March 3rd of this year. And then the final and the second and final public hearing will take place on March 9th. For those of you who did not have an opportunity to see the proposed changes, the video is on our Facebook page. So take a look, and we'll have, if you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll even send you the link to the video, but very, very informative. There's going to be a few changes as it relates to District 1 and District 2. These are the two districts that have the highest number of locations within its district boundaries that have NEZ designation. There's going to be a few changes, so I want to let you know that now. But we want to make sure that you're caught up to speed before City Council makes its final vote to amend the NEZ maps for the City of Detroit that's coming up. All right, Detroit Alley Cleanup Program. A lot of conversation about it. A Detroit Alley Cleanup Program, we started last year. City of Detroit worked with neighbors in the community, and 500 locations were cleaned up, 500 alleys last year, where the mayor announced sometime, I think early this year, that the program has expanded now to 2,000 locations in 2021. Appointments will resume in April of this year. And as of February 25th, just want to let you know, because I know a lot of folks, there's a lot of interest in this particular program. Here we go. There's more than, last year there was more than 665 alleys cleaned, and 12 of them were in D1. That's the good news. The little bit more challenging news is that 1,883 alleys are still in the queue for cleaning. So that's a lot. And 63 of those are in District 1. The process is still ongoing, but for those who are still looking to get their alleyways in the pipeline, you can do so by going to the website detroitmi.gov/neighborhoods. They'll walk you through the process. Again, that's where the application takes place. And for those who are in the queue, the appointments for the City of Detroit to go out into the neighborhoods will begin on April 1st of this year. Next up, speed humps, another conversation that you can find no matter where you are in District 1. Folks want them. There are some who don't necessarily want them in their neighborhood, but very popular. Another program that has since been expanded to now 4,500 speed humps to be installed this year in 2021. Now, DPW is going to post, some of you already know this and you've seen it in the past. DPW is planning to post the speed hump location, installation locations that they're going to install this year on our website, on the city's website, March 1st. So that's right around the corner. So I know some of you are waiting with bated breath to see if your advocacy over the years have gotten you a speed hump. You'll find out on March 1st. Speed hump installations are slated to begin April 1st or April of this year, weather permitting. You never know about the weather we have in Michigan. One day it's, you know, like it looks today and beautiful and nice, and next day it's going to be storm. So we're hoping, knock on wood, that it's not going to be a weather incident that prevents us from installing the next round of speed humps. If you've already submitted, you don't have to submit again, resubmit. The information is already there. The department is reviewing and going out and doing surveys. The city budget process. This is the most important part of City Council's job. We're in the process or about to embark upon the annual budget process, a $1.1 billion budget. Last year, we saw budget cuts of about more than $350 million. And with COVID still lingering around, we're hopeful because of the vaccine, and we see the numbers going down, that we'll be able to open up the city more and see that those cuts being reduced and the pain that many have experienced as a result of that being reduced as well. But here we are right now. We had a couple of state reps on the call earlier, and we're going to need their help. There's 170 million lost from income tax, and that makes up about 41% of the estimated $410 million that the city lost total last year during the pandemic. Now, the good news is, again, this is why we're going to need our state legislators. The good news is Governor Whitmer has offered some relief by recommending the city of Detroit get $25 million in the next state budget to make up for our income tax loss. That would be part of a $70 million package for about 24 Michigan cities, depending on income tax revenue. And we, again, of course, need the assistance of our state legislators. So we're going to be working with our partners. So again, walk you through the budget process. March 5th, Mayor delivers the budget to City Council. March 8th through the 28th, we're going to be deliberating, having budget hearings for various departments within the city of Detroit. April 7th, City Council budget is due. On April 13th, the mayor has an option to veto the budget that the City Council submits back to him. And on April 16th, the City Council has the final word, if that is necessary, to override the mayor's veto with that option. And our next, I told you we have a lot going on. March 8th, we have in our office, we're going to be having another forum. Some of you are well aware that the city of Detroit has begun to, will be beginning the licensing process for adult use cannabis licensing and sales. So that is, we've already taken care of the licensing portion of the adult use cannabis process. Now we're looking to finalize the zoning. So for those who are interested in getting into the adult use cannabis business, or those in the community who may be concerned about what does this mean for my neighborhood, tune in to our Facebook, and the information is right there on the screen. We want to make sure you have even more communication in days coming. But Monday, March 8th at 6 p.m., I'll be joined by D1's very own George Etheridge. He's a member of the City Planning Commission, and he's going to walk us through the proposed changes to the zoning process or for the adult use cannabis licensing. So we will make sure we'll have additional conversation up to that point. 6 p.m. Monday, March 8th, join us. And then finally on our hot topics, this is a hot topic that has been brewing for quite some time. Now I know for a fact, last year, the city of Detroit, I was part of them, we put out information. It was about 18 meetings over a span of a number of months. Many of the meetings had about 100 or so people who showed up. But there were quite a few who were not aware and have had some challenges regarding the Grand River streetscape. It is still ongoing, not done yet. We're looking at potentially having the project wrapped up. It's going to be some time, so weather permitting, COVID permitting. We're hoping to have this project wrapped up end of the year, maybe even the early next year. But they're moving at a pretty good pace at this moment. And on Wednesday, March 24th at 6 p.m., we will have a conversation with the community. You're welcome to join and pass the word to discuss the Grand River streetscape. What do you like? What don't you like? We'll have, it's going to be more than just me, folks from the planning department, as well as the state of Michigan, MDOT, who actually has the jurisdiction over Grand River. But we're going to have those folks there to listen to you. There is potentially going to be some changes that we can make based upon the conversations with the community. But just to keep you aware, it's so important to take part in the meetings that are submitted out here in the community. This is why a lot of folks kind of blew past the meetings that happened. Those meetings, the people who were in the meetings, they're the ones who tailored and shaped what this project looks like. So this is not the only project that we're having meetings for, as you see, very, 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 very busy with making sure that we engage, inform, and do outreach with the community. So that wraps us up for the D1 monthly meeting for February. I want to thank my team. for all the work that they did, the behind the scenes work, the prep work, and all the work that they did today. Really appreciate. Thank you all for joining us as well. We're going to make sure that the contact information is available after I finish speaking for all of our speakers that joined today. And be on the lookout for our next meeting that's going to take place. But as always, every 4th Saturday of the month, we have our D1 monthly meeting taking place right here at 10 a.m. D1. We love you. We thank you. We appreciate you. God bless you. Until next time, we'll see you then. Let's roll the contact sheet, please. Take care.